host, Sophia. And today, my guest is Sue B. Now, let me tell you a little bit about. Oh my gosh. Why did I just call you Sue? And look at that. And when she just sits there and smiles at me. Okay, this is, I don't know. This is crazy. I don't know where the name Sue came from. She's Kate B. So
Yeah, I'm Kate B. That is my name.
I love that you just sat there. I'm just gonna look at her and just wonder, like, she crazy? Maybe a little bit. I have been known to be a little crazy. So anyway, don't know where Sue came from. Now I'm gonna have to go figure out why I said Sue B. Anyway, getting back on track. Yes, I am Sophia, your host, and we're gonna start over with my guest today, Kate B. Now, Kate is the founder of the Sober School, a coaching platform that helps women stop drinking and start living without shame, labels, or deprivation. A former BBC journalist and certified life coach, Kate now empowers women across the globe to navigate alcohol free living with confidence and joy. Her flagship program, Getting Unstuck, has supported more than 4,000 women to transform their relationship with alcohol. Kate lives near Manchester in the UK. So, welcome, Kate. And again, I apologize. I really don't know where Sue came from.
I do have someone on my team called Sue, so maybe that was in your brain somehow, but that's fine.
Could be, could be. But that's just kind of interesting because it kind of reminds me, because, okay, I'm going to bring you guys up to speed. So, just before we started, I asked Kate if her last name, was if she's just normally a B. And she said yes, because some people, as they're moving through life, they switch things up a bit. And so I asked her, "Did you get a lot of teasing during that time when you're growing up?" And she said yes. So but also what kind of popped into my mind was that movie. It's an animated movie about a bee and the girl. And so now it's in my mind. I got to go look it up because I don't know if her name's Sue, or if I'm just thinking about Sue on Team Sober School. So anyway, that is a little bit of background. Yes, I can be a little bit crazy, but that's kind of where things are coming from. So
We got that.
moving right along. What made you decide to found Sober School, and just how did you get there?
Yeah, I created the Sober School because when I was struggling with my drinking, I couldn't find anything that spoke to me where I was at. So I knew I was drinking too much. I was waking up and regretting it so often. My drinking didn't feel normal at all. But when I looked at, okay, like, what resources are there out there for me? Here in the UK, it was really just, okay, well, you could go to rehab. And I knew in no way could I afford rehab. And I didn't think I needed it. Or the alternative was AA meetings. And I did go to some AA meetings and I just didn't feel like I fitted in there. In fact, I walked out thinking, oh, wow, these people, like, they're really bad drinkers. And actually, this has made me feel better about my own drinking. And so I just carried on drinking. And so I think, we often do well when we are around people who are like us and can be a bit of a mirror and they're changing. And I think at that time, I just couldn't quite find that for me. And so the Sober School was born to look after midlife, grey zone female drinkers who want to change but are struggling to do that and want something private and discreet to support them.
Okay, you just mentioned gray zone. What is a gray zone drinker?
Yeah, it's this term that I'm glad you kind of called me out on it because it's kind of common in the recovery space. We talk a lot about black and white drinking. So, as in all or nothing drinking, you're either a quote unquote normal drinker or a raging alcoholic. That has been the sort of dynamic. That's what you see in movies and maybe what friends will tell you. You're either normal or an alcoholic. And what we're saying is actually, no, come on, let's use our brains here. There is this middle area where your drinking is causing you problems, but it's not looking anything like the cliched stereotypes that you're going to see in a movie or on a TV show. Because one of the hallmarks of my drinking and of the women I work with is that it all happens very discreetly. It's very hidden. We get up the next day, function really well, deadlines are met. So it is kind of hidden, private. It's in this gray zone. It makes it harder to go, oh, yeah, you've definitely got a problem because it doesn't look like that on the outside.
So for you, what was that turning point when you're like, I really think I have a problem here?
Yeah. And that's a great question because it's something I spent so long trying to think about and figure out because I wanted like this hand to come down from the sky and say, Kate, this is your time. You need to stop now. And there was never this rock bottom moment or this dramatic wake up call. But I think the closest I got to it was in January 2013. I decided at the start of the year that I was going to stop drinking and go on this massive health kick. And I spent the new year at this fitness boot camp. So I was being like chased up hills by these ex-army people who were trying to make you lose weight for the new year. And so I'd spent all this money on getting the new year off to this perfect start. And I said, yeah, I'm definitely not going to drink for the whole of January. Anyway, 1 week into January, I just had this terrible couple of days. And I said, right, that's it, screw it. I'm buying a bottle of wine, I'm getting pizza, I'm getting all the things. And I just realized then, oh, wow, I now don't seem to be able to stop for more than a few days. This is the perfect time to be taking a month off drinking, and I can't do it. And that really worried me. Now, did I stop drinking completely then? No, it took me until April of that year to actually get my act together. But I think that was one of the signs, truly, was, oh, look, you're not doing what you said you were going to do. Not at all.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah.
you kind of just started to feel out of alignment with yourself because you weren't keeping a promise that you made to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And in the past, I had been able to stop for a month. In fact, I'd stopped a few times just to prove to myself that my drinking was normal. And then I'd go back to drinking in a way that was quite destructive afterwards. But I have been able to do that. So it was a real noticeable decline. And I was doing other things as well. Like I was doing a lot more drinking during the week. And I mean like drinking on a Tuesday night when you know you have to be at work really early the next day and you have an important presentation. I, what was I thinking? I'd drink at least a bottle of wine, spend half the night awake because it used to mess up my sleep. Then I'd go into work thinking, okay, well, not a single person can guess I'm hungover because how would I explain that? Oh, what? I had too much to drink at home alone? That's weird. So this was the stuff I was thinking all the time.
And I find that is interesting because I had a point in time when I was working as a therapist and I always worked on Saturday because I was working a full-time job as well. And I would come home on Saturday and have a glass of wine. And then I started to notice that I'm doing this every Saturday and I'm with myself. So I actually sat down and was like, do I have a problem? I'm like, I don't think I have a problem. So then I told my friend, and I asked him, I was like, do you think I have a problem? It's like, no, I don't think you have a problem. But if you're asking the question, then you probably don't have a problem because you're asking the question. And a lot of people who have a problem never ask. So I was like, okay. And I sat with myself and I said, you know what? I think I need a different way to cope because I was dealing with a lot of other people's stuff and wasn't finding, having to deal with all my own work stuff during the week, other people's stuff on the weekend and sometimes during the week. And I think, for some of the things that I was hearing, I just needed a way to cope. And I didn't recognize that it was coping mechanism for me until I stopped and asked myself the question. I was like, okay, well, let's rewind and look at this. Because if you're asking the question, then maybe there is something that you need to address.
Yeah.
And so I did. I was like, all right, well, clearly you need to find a different way to cope. I said, because I don't think sitting at home drinking by yourself is like the best thing to do.
But it's really good that you asked that question because that is a really important point that a lot of people miss. Your drinking always makes sense. Yeah, for you, it was a coping mechanism. Sounds like you were decompressing, switching off. So it was serving that purpose for you. And every woman who drinks, whether she drinks a lot or a little, there's a reason. And it's often about coping with feelings.
So one of the things that maybe we can cover, because if I was using that to cope with just all the things, and it's like, yeah, it's just a glass of wine. And actually, it really was just a glass of wine. It wasn't like, counting that 2 bottles of wine or anything. It really was just a glass. But for somebody who doesn't drink a lot and drinking alone, and it, became a pattern, then yeah, to me, that's like, it's probably not something we should do. So I found other ways to start coping. But can we talk about what the emotional skills gap could be if you're using drinking to cope?
Yeah, because like I said, your drinking always makes sense. And so I think for many of us, we reach an age, perhaps in our late teens, where suddenly drinking is okay. Although I know actually in America, you drink later, don't you? You can't go into a pub or a bar and buy alcohol as a teenager, whereas here, you can do it much younger. And so I think we reach this point of sort of growth in our teenage years or around that time where suddenly we stop exercising this coping muscle and we stop looking for other healthier ways because there's this normalized, glamorized, romanticized drug that has come in on the scene. And people say, oh, yeah, you had a bad day? Have a drink. Oh, you're stressed out? Have a drink. Oh, hey, you're celebrating? Have a drink. Oh, you're grieving? Have a drink. Like, you're in a baby shower? Have a drink. It- It's no wonder that people do drink in this crazy, boozy world of ours. And yeah, I think when we take the alcohol away, what we've got to do then a bit like you did, is go, okay, so what am I going to do instead? How can I take care of myself? And sometimes I work with women who've been drinking for maybe 4, 5 decades. And we really have to work on that. Like, okay, how are you going to take care of yourself? And sometimes an exercise I like to do with people is, well, what did you do when you were a child? Like, what did you do when you were sad, when you were a kid? Or what did you do, to have a good time, to unwind, to have fun? What did you do for comfort? Because whatever you did back then, you probably like a version of it today. But it might just feel a bit alien because we've practiced this muscle memory of drinking and pouring alcohol over these kind of emotional gaps or emotional needs.
Well, and I think a lot of people do the same thing with food, but you can stop drinking, you can't stop eating. Well, I mean, not healthy. But yeah, I think that there's so many things that people do to cope or escape that if we reel it in and we start looking at what's underneath that, It's almost like when you're in the garden and you're just weeding and you're just popping off the tops of stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, why do I have, weeds again? Because you didn't dig out the root. So is that something that in your coaching that you do is like try to get to the root of what the issue is so that they can find a healthier way to cope?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe that behind every craving for alcohol, there is some kind of unmet need or some kind of pain there that's not being resolved. And so sometimes those needs can be quite simple things. For example, hunger and thirst present themselves in your body as feelings that are a lot like cravings for alcohol. So sometimes we've got to address that. Or sometimes the woman might not be sleeping that much or getting the rest they need. So those could be their root causes, especially if I'm working with someone who's like a young mum and they're really chronically sleep deprived or not getting that me time. But often there is a bigger issue at play.
Mhm.
And it might be, for example, a lot of women in midlife grew up in homes where we weren't really taught how to be with our emotions. Perhaps we were kind of raised without someone being attuned to how we felt. And so we've become so uncomfortable with any kind of big feeling that we don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to be with that feeling. And life is always going to give us big feelings. So sometimes the work with someone in that case is, okay, how do I let myself feel a feeling? Or is there something else that I need to address? I also work with women sometimes later in life who are lonely and bored because they've got an empty nest, they've retired. And so that is their core sticking point and they need some help addressing that. And so they've been using alcohol to mask that gap, but it's certainly not fixing it.
So you, um, okay, so as women get older and they hit perimenopause and menopause, there's a lot going on in the body. There's so much going on in the body. It's almost like when you have the angel and the devil on your shoulder and they're like both having a fight. It's like, I think that's sometimes how it feels.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does alcohol play into some of those symptoms or or make them worse?
Yeah. So I think first we have to consider, why does alcohol become more appealing at that stage in life? It's often because women in perimenopause are not feeling great, like not feeling themselves. Maybe they are feeling more anxiety as a result of perimenopause, or they're not sleeping so well. Um, Women at that stage of life are often in that midlife crush where they've got a fairly senior role at work, they've still got kids who need them, they've got aging parents, they've got responsibilities. It's like the weight of everything. And so alcohol can feel like this release and this thing that shuts everything off for a while. But the absolute kicker is that alcohol then goes and punches you in the face because it makes all these symptoms worse. It interferes with your sleep. It will make hot flushes worse. It will make anxiety worse, particularly the next day. It's got a lot of calories in, so it will contribute to weight gain that you might already be struggling with. And when we're in perimenopause, because the composition of the body is changing anyway, alcohol is processed a lot slower, which is why some women find they get to that stage in life and suddenly they are getting absolutely awful hangovers.
Mhm.
So it's really, whatever way you look at it, alcohol isn't going to help. It's just going to give you more of what you don't want. But we can't always see that because in the moment when you pour that first glass, you do get this brief respite, this brief distraction from everything, but it comes with huge consequences.
Yeah, I'm trying to because I really stopped drinking a while ago. Because when I was younger, I could drink like the biggest dudes under the table and be okay. Get up and walk away, and it's like I'm good. And now I am such a lightweight because I don't really drink much anymore. So, occasionally I'll have a glass of wine here or there, or occasionally I'll have a cocktail here or there. But now I have to be
Yeah.
really mindful about how much I'm drinking because it doesn't take much now for me to just be like, ooh, I'm feeling it. Or
Yeah.
I'm getting hot. I just drink. I'm like, I'm getting hot.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're really aware of how it affects you as well, and you're really noticing that. And so it's kind of acting as or it's almost sounds like it's stopping you from drinking more because you're feeling those effects so quickly.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, whereas the women I work with, they are more like, I'm feeling that, but I'm going to continue anyway because I'm chasing something that I think's at the bottom of this glass, like this feeling, this escapism, and that's worth more to me than the side effects. So it's a real, you said like angel and devil. Yeah, it's that. It's you're sort of fighting between the two things.
So now what? Well, other than, well, I'm glad you exist, right? But how do a lot of women cope then when they get to the point where they're like, I don't think I should be drinking anymore, and they haven't found it yet? Because, like you said, it's not because I mean, I've met men and probably women and didn't know it who are functional alcoholics. In fact, I dated one, so I know what that looks like. But for women, I don't know. Does it present differently in women than it does in men?
Oh, what do you mean? The
The
symptoms of it or?
Yeah, the way it just because like you were saying, you could go to work, nobody'd ever know, right? And with this person I dated, it was kind of the same thing. Like nobody really knew when he was I did. Yep, because I was there. I knew what he was doing. But most people wouldn't know that he'd been drinking
Yeah.
because he appeared perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and that's absolutely the case with women as well. And I think women are so good at coping, especially, um, yeah, like as women, we're just awesome, aren't we? We're like, we can be really high functioning, we can juggle a lot of things, and alcohol just becomes, oh, that's this other thing I've got to manage on top of everything else. And so I'm always amazed by the suffering some people can handle and hide because they're just juggling so many things anyway. But yeah, in terms of like, well, when do you know you've got a problem, or when do you know, yeah, this is crossing a line? I think in a way we've got to throw away all the lists and the quizzes because if you're anything like me, you'll just keep taking the quiz until you get the answer that you want, one that says, oh, you're fine. But ultimately, if you are worrying about your drinking and wondering if it's a problem, it probably is. But also, if you are just waking up regretting how much you had to drink and promising yourself you're not going to drink and then breaking that promise, that's really important information. And I think the other thing is, do you drink in a way that you would be embarrassed or ashamed if someone else saw? Are you drinking on your own or hiding some of your drinks? Does your partner come home and you suggest you open a bottle of wine, but actually you've already had a glass? Like little things like that. Or quickly gulping down something when someone doesn't see. Or even just being so laser focused on the alcohol that you almost can't hear the conversation. It's all these little signs that I think, you know what, these are little clues that something isn't right here. But it might not come and like trip you up and bump into you and have like a big flashing light on. Like we've got to look for these signs. But the fact is, we're so in tune with our bodies. If we were talking about gluten or dairy or something like that here, and it was causing all these negative consequences, we go, oh, I think maybe gluten doesn't agree with me. I think maybe I'm allergic to dairy. And yet some women have these terrible things happening because of alcohol. And they're like, oh, I wonder if I've got a problem with alcohol. You're like, yeah, I think so. I think the evidence is there.
Well, it's so funny that you brought up gluten because for the longest while, I didn't realize that I had a gluten intolerance. I'm not celiac, but I do have an intolerance. And so I went um, to this naturopathic doctor and we did all these tests. And then she's like, okay, let's do an elimination diet. So I eliminated a bunch of stuff. And so, well, it's like, I feel better when I don't, you know, do eat certain things all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, try it. Well, not even trying. It's like, so most of the time I don't eat gluten. Every now and then I will. Or when I do travel, I find that certain foods that I can't eat in the States, I can eat when I travel. But
Yes.
it's just the wheat is different, the ground is different. It's not sprayed with a bunch of stuff. So there was that. But you can't, so you can relate that to drinking, but wine in the States, wine in Europe, wine and wherever else you are, still can be wine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still a drug at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I know it's in this beautiful bottle and it's got this great story behind it, but it's a drug that really causes a lot of negative consequences. And there's more and more research about just the impact it's having on us.
So I know you just came back from traveling. So did you travel with others or was it a solo trip?
It was a solo trip, actually. I went to Corfu, which is a Greek island.
So when you travel alone and, you know, you're around people who are drinking, or even when you're with friends, because a lot of socialization and socializing happens around food and alcohol.
Mm.
So are most of your friends alcohol free? Or are you totally cool around people who are continuing to drink and you're there and you're still good with it?
Yeah. I'm totally happy being around people who drink alcohol. It doesn't bother me. It is like you going to a restaurant and seeing gluten on the menu. Like, yeah, you see it, but it doesn't bother you, but that's just not what you're going to choose to have. And I think it's funny because alcohol is such a big part of travel and it's really glamorized as part of that. And you're often given, a free welcome drink, for example, that's alcoholic. But I have never had a problem in just saying, oh, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate that gesture. Actually, I don't drink. And then they like, won't hesitate to get you an alternative. And when you go to restaurants, now, like there's so many alcohol-free drinks that you could have as well. So we really see it as this upgrade because, like, with me going to Corfu, I've been there as a drinker. I know what it's like to drink too much, to feel hungover in that hot, hot sun, to not do the sightseeing and the traveling that I wanted to do because actually I just couldn't really be bothered and I wanted to sit by the pool and drink cocktails. And I know what it's like to be there as a non-drinker and to really like come home feeling rested, having seen lots of things. So I always feel like alcohol-free living is actually a little bit of an upgrade. I mean, I do love an actual physical upgrade on the plane if I can get one, but if I can't, then I'm like being sober is good enough. Yeah.
And so when you are, I kind of touched on it before, But if you don't feel like you have a problem, right? You're like, it's just a glass of wine.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like you have a problem and you're thinking, well, I don't really have a problem, so I'm not going to go to AA. Like, and like he said, it might make you actually feel better about yourself. Or, I'm not going to go to a recovery spot because it's like, well, what am I recovering from? How do you get to the, not how do you get to the point, but when you finally decide that, yeah, this could be an issue, how do you move forward? I guess is the best way I can ask that question. Since
Mm.
you're like you said, it's like we have this all or nothing type thinking, but if you're somewhere in the middle and you don't really feel like you have a problem and nobody's telling you that you have a problem, then
Yeah.
why would you even think to, it's like, oh, you should probably stop drinking. Or, oh, I should probably get some help. Or maybe I should, research this or something. Does the question make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think, just first of all, what I want to say is if someone's listening to this and they are drinking and feeling great on it, then all power to them. I have nothing against people who drink. And I think if you have a relationship with alcohol that works for you, like, fine, keep doing it.
Mm.
Who I work with and who I really speak to are the women who are like, gosh, alcohol is a problem for me and I don't know how to change it. When I think of not drinking, I feel sad and deprived. I can't imagine living with this thing and I can't imagine living without it. People who are really in this, it's like being in the worst relationship where you think maybe you should break up, but you can't imagine breaking up. It's that.
Okay.
So those are the women who I really help, who are like, yeah, and I can't go to AA, that's not for me, and I don't need this. So that's where the sober school comes in, really. And what I say to women is, look, how about you take a complete break from drinking? You don't have to say you're never ever going to drink again. In fact, don't say that because it's overwhelming.
Mm.
Come with me, come work with me, and we will have the goal of you taking a 6-week break from drinking. And I'll show you a load of things to do that you haven't done before. We'll approach it differently. And then at the end of that 6-week break, do whatever you want next. Maybe you love it and you decide to keep going with it.
Mm.
Or maybe you go, you know what? I've given this 100%, and on balance, I want to go back to drinking. That's fine. Whatever way you go, you come out of that better educated, better informed, probably with some other coping mechanisms. So it's going to be a really good thing for you to do, whatever you do in the long term.
And so, just based on what I'm hearing, your program is 6 weeks.
Yes, correct. Yeah, and I chose 6 weeks because I think you gotta you got to give sobriety a proper chance. You've got to allow yourself to practice some things and just do things, over and over again for a bit. But actually, I do offer women ongoing support beyond the 6 weeks if they want it. But yeah, 6 weeks is like my core program.
Okay. And then if people, and I'm assuming that you work not just in person, but also with people across the board.
Actually, all my work is online.
Okay.
Yeah. So I work, I live in the UK, but I work with women from the States to women in Australia. Yeah, because this issue with alcohol affects women all over the world. It seems to be an international problem
Mhm.
amongst women in midlife. And my goal with the Sober School was always to make it something that's really easily accessible, where you can be anonymous as well, but show up and like share your story and have it met with compassion and understanding. Because there's nothing more kind of shame lifting than sharing something that's private and painful, and having someone else go, oh, I get it. I've done that too.
And so, again, from what I'm hearing, it's a group program.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I have found that is the best way to help people change. So I run the course at a few set times in the year, and the whole cohort starts on the same day. So people get this like tribe to belong to. So you're not doing it alone. And it's really cool because then you're surrounded by other women. And maybe even if you don't have compassion for yourself, there'll be someone or a load of other people in the group who you think, oh, like they're just doing the best they could with the tools that are available, and I want the best for them. And we learn a lot from seeing other people change too.
I agree because I have a coach who used to say you can't become yourself by yourself. And so I think group programs are great. One on one, if you need to, have it go deep, like really deep. But I think group programs are great because now you're with like minded people and you have like a built in support group with
Yeah.
boundaries.
Yeah. Because sometimes other people as well will ask the question that you didn't know you needed to hear the answer to.
Yeah.
I think it's very enlightening. But I run the sober school, it's myself, and I have a team of coaches because we do have a way for people to ask one-on-one questions. Because I do believe that within a group program, you also need the ability to say, hey, I'm going through this particular thing right now. I need some support with this. And to have that personalized support from a human
Yeah.
who is going to listen to you and, yeah, support you.
Yeah, because I mean, as good as ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and all the things are, they c-
Yeah.
they can't replace true human connection. They can't replace true human accountability. And
Yeah.
they can't replace true human support and compassion. They
Yeah.
can mirror back a lot of things to you, which is great. But to get to feel that true compassion from another human being who understands where you are, I think that's priceless. I mean, obviously, we're all going to put a price on it because we have to
Mm.
do our thing. But that is priceless. I
Yeah.
think a lot of
But
people
no, I
just don't realize that.
I completely agree with you. And the other thing that the big flaw I see with AI and people trying to use it for coaching is that a good coach not only can kind of like stand back and see your what's going on from a different perspective, but they will challenge you and ask the right questions at the right time. Whereas I was just complaining to my chat GPT today. I said, you're being too agreeable. You're just agreeing with everything I say. I challenged you on one point and then you agreed on my next point. And that's not helpful when you're trying to use it to be coached and to grow and evolve.
Right.
So,
And again, I think it's awareness because I
mm,
think sometimes people aren't even aware that that's what's happening.
yeah,
It's almost
yeah,
like you said, you keep taking the
yeah, it's
quick at
scary.
the answer that you want. So if you keep getting answers that you want, you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. Or I'll do this exercise. And then the next time around, it's like, well, you're doing amazing. And here's the answer that you want.
Yeah, exactly.
So if people want to find you because they've heard themselves somewhere in this interview, where can they find you?
The best place to come and find me is over at thesoberschool.com. That's my website, thesoberschool.com. And I've got lots of videos on there. I do a video nearly every week. And I've got a free guides and lots of things that you can just check out and see, hey, does this feel like something that's going to help me? Does it resonate with me? I don't think I am for everyone, but I also know that there's not one approach to recovery that's for every person either. So, yeah, and just out here trying to provide the thing that I needed when I was struggling.
And I love that. That just makes so much sense. And to again when we're talking about awareness, to be aware enough to know I'm not for everybody. And I think that's one of the things that if you're looking for a coach, and as audience talking, if you're looking for a coach, look for somebody who you feel aligned with, right? Somebody who, even if they haven't been through exactly what you've been through, but you feel like the relationship could be a good one. Because to me, a lot of coaching is around relationship. Because if you're not having a good relationship with your coach, then you're not going to make the strides that you want to make because your brain's going to be focused on something else.
Mm,
So
yeah, so true.
just being able to say that I am not for everyone. I know I am not for everyone. I definitely not. Because when I was doing therapy, there were people who um, needed a less direct approach than I gave. And also, I mean, as a coach, you have to know when to and yes, coaching and therapy are different, but
Mm.
as people who are helping people, I think you have to know when to be direct and when to nurture. But everybody is their own person, has their own personality. So being okay, not being for everyone is a good thing, I think.
Mm, yeah, I agree. Yeah. Um, yeah, and that's why we have so many different coaches and therapists out there because there is the right person for you. It just takes a little while to find them sometimes.
Yeah. It's like even if you're talking, it just popped into my head. Maybe my grandma's listening. But she used to say every pot has a cover, and I'm sure almost everybody's grandmother had something similar to say. But, when she's
Yeah, I love
talking
that.
about relationship, it's like every pot has a cover. Well, same thing with a coach. He will find yours. It just might take a little longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it has been such a pleasure having you on. And I know that you have a freebie for the audience now. Is that on your website that they can go visit your website and get that?
Yeah, if they go to thesoberschool.com/podcast, the link should be there, or just go to thesoberschool.com and you'll find like loads of things there. I have a free wine o'clock survival guide and a pep talk, and oh gosh, I got loads of things, all the free things.
Okay, perfect. So you guys go to her website. All right. Well, again, it's been such a pleasure, and we will talk again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.